Good morning. This is Dr. Rutledge, and I'm going to talk to you about how to be healthy. Let's get better. All right, so let me share my screen. Okay, this is, of course, a nerdy slide, live long and prosper. That's Star Trek's Mr. Spock, and that's the theme of this morning's discussion. So recent studies have shown that methionine restriction, is related to longevity. That is, eat different, live longer, okay? Or live long and prosper. This is from a new article in 2021. I'm going to talk a little bit about this, but this is just an introduction to some really wild new research. But I thought I'd put it out this morning for everyone to look at and tease you on the upcoming videos. Okay, methionine restrictions is effects. Its method is it reduces oxidative stress. Okay, what? Okay, there is an amino acid. That's the amino acids make up proteins in your body. You know how a lot of bariatric surgeons and goofy advisors are saying eat lots of protein. Well, one of the amino acids that make up proteins is something called methionine, and they're doing some research on it. And basically what they've shown, and this is a little bit strong for you to take in early in the day, methionine metabolite activates the mechanistic target of rapamycin complex 1, also called mTOR. And this increases the suppression of autophagy. Therefore, methionine can induce autophagy. What? I know you're going to turn this off now. Don't. Stay with me. It's going to get easier. When we get old cells. And when we do things like eat healthy or have a fast or exercise, we can burn up and destroy and get rid of junky old cells. And that's good for us because old cells have problems. Sometimes they can turn into cancer or they can just gum up the works. And so methionine is not so good, but when you cut back on this amino acid in your diet, you do these two things, which is mTOR activation and suppress and get rid of more of the autophagy. That makes things better. So methionine restriction decreases oxidative stress. And I put in here, that's rust. Basically, we have these chemical reactions happening in our body all the time, which is the equivalent of setting something on fire or when normal iron rusts. So what happens is different parts of your body gets damaged over time. And that fire, that burning is necessary in part, but excessive amounts can be damaging. And so decreasing this amino acid by methionine restriction can increase lifespan and health span, improving metabolic health. Now that's really a lot to get started with. Put all that in the back of your mind because now I'm going to give you a run up to this big new finding, okay? Methionine restriction then is one of the few dietary manipulations known to extend lifespan in mammals. That's us. And we're going to talk about that, but we have to do some basics. So I hope you'll stay with me. What we're going to say is that we want this discussion is for you to live long and prosper. That's a sign to nerds. Okay, so methionine is a precursor of another chemical called homocysteine. Homocysteine is a sulfur amino acid, and it's an intermediate to methylation and transsulfuration pathways. Okay, another way of saying that is elevated plasma homocysteine, which comes from methionine, causes high homocysteine. Also in Latin, it's hyperhomocysteinemia, or just bad homocysteine. And it's associated with blocking up your coronary arteries and causing your brain to be damaged through dementia, including Alzheimer's disease. Okay, we don't want that. So let's say this again. Methionine, which is an amino acid in our diet, is a first step in developing or creating homocysteine. And this is in particular a sulfur containing amino acid. That'll come up later. And it goes on to methylate. We're going to talk about that, and elevates a chemical called homocysteine. And that's been shown to increase vascular disease and dementia, heart attack, stroke, and death. And so that's where we're going, but we've got a long way before we get there. So I hope you'll be a little bit patient because it gets easier in a few minutes. So homocysteine is an amino acid that happens when proteins are broken down. Proteins are broken down. So if you ate a lot of protein, more than you really needed, your body would burn it up, and then you'd have homocysteine. Well, just stay with me. We're just getting started. But a high homocysteine level contributes to arterial damage, blood clots, and other damage, as we talked about: heart attack, stroke, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and death. So homocysteine goes up when proteins are broken down because it releases the methionine, which is a precursor. Stay with me, it gets easier. Now, here's an example. This is a study of 3 years of about 1,000 people, say 500, about 1,500 people from China who were getting coronary artery angiograms. And they looked at their homocysteine levels, and the ones who had high levels died. So this is only in 3 years. Already there's a big jump in death. So high homocysteine, more death, okay? High homocysteine, and high homocysteine comes from high methionine. And studies show when you cut back on the methionine in people's or animals' diets, they have less homocysteine and then less other problems. And that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so homocysteine plays an important role in the pathogenesis of vascular dementia, okay, and Alzheimer's disease. So they're 2 different kinds, but basically your brain goes bad. And a meta-analysis of many papers showed higher levels of homocysteine and lower levels of a vitamin called folate, increased dementia and vascular dementia, Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia. For every 5 micromoles increase in homocysteine, there was a 9% increase in vascular dementia and a 12% increase in Alzheimer's disease. So methionines in your diet. Methionine comes in and increases homocysteine. Homocysteine bad, causes heart attack, stroke, and death, but it also causes vascular dementia. That is, you just don't get enough blood through hardening of the arteries, or Alzheimer's disease. Higher levels of homocysteine, which comes from methionine, which is an amino acid in protein that you eat, or if you have lower levels of folate, then you get dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Okay, so we don't want those things. What can we do? That's what we're talking about today. So again, higher levels of homocysteine, lower levels of folate leads to dementia and Alzheimer's disease, or vascular associated dementia. Okay, but studies show that treatment with folate and or B12 doesn't work. So some people have hypothesized something really simple. This high level of homocysteine is because of the low level of folate, so we'll just give pills, but it doesn't work. Okay, so blood tests, again, just to try and be clear, there's this folate paradox. Blood tests, high folate is associated in humans with low homocysteine. That's good. Remember, we said high homocysteine, bad. So again, blood tests show high folate in the bloodstream and low homocysteine in the bloodstream, good. That is less heart attack, stroke, death, and dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So, but treatment with folate pills, which they thought would be good, and they spent millions of dollars testing it, didn't help. Okay. But high folate in the blood seems to protect from dementia and heart disease, but folate pills fail. What's going on? That's what we're going to talk about now. I have a video on YouTube about 15 years ago where I talked about what's called the vitamin A story, and I'm going to summarize that for you now. What they found decades ago is that people with high blood levels of vitamin A had less cancer. Particularly for this story, people with high vitamin A in their bloodstream had less lung cancer. Now, the United States Veteran Administration had a bunch of smokers from the Vietnam and the Korean War. And they were seeing high rates of lung disease and lung cancer. And so they got the idea from this data, why don't we try giving people vitamin A, right? In other words, people with more vitamin A in their bloodstream had less lung cancer. We got people who are getting lung cancer because they're smokers. Let's do a powerful, controlled, prospective randomized trial. Now, what that means is we're going to be good, hard science. They broke 17,000 veterans who were smokers into two groups. Either you got a vitamin A pill or you got a sugar pill, okay? And then they didn't know who was who, but they randomized the trial. And what they found at 8 years, they stopped the study. And the reason is the vitamin A group was doing worse. That is, it wasn't helping. It's a long story, but basically the vitamin A group was doing no better than a sugar pill. In fact, the sugar pill group did slightly better, not really statistically significant, but the vitamin A didn't work. Just like our story a few moments ago, the folate pill didn't work. How can we explain that? Now, this is really simple, but it'll take a minute for this to sink in when I've told it to other people. The vitamin A is not the event that makes a difference. The vitamin A is a sign. It's a signal of what? See if anybody guesses that. High blood levels of folate, less heart attack, dementia, and death. But a randomized controlled trial, folate versus nothing, folate was no better than the sugar pill. It's not the folate. The folate is a sign, a signal. What is it trying to tell us? What are we to realize when these two vitamins are high in the bloodstream? People do better, but when we give them those pills, it makes no difference because it's a sign. It's not the effective event, okay? High vitamin A, less cancer, but vitamin A pills, a failure. I'm just saying this one more time. High folate vitamin, less heart disease and dementia, folate pills, a failure. How can this be possible? It's a sign. Vitamin pills didn't work. When you go to a railroad crossing, the sign, the lights, the bells, the gate, they don't kill you. They tell you there's a train that might be coming. Folate and vitamin A are not the train, they're the sign. High blood levels of vitamin A or folate is good. Excellent studies show pills that raise your blood levels of vitamin A and folate have no effect. What does this mean? The blood levels are a sign. It's not the sign that kills you, it's the train. What are those pills telling us? What are those vitamins telling us? Folate in vegans is 34% higher than vegetarians and 88% higher than omnivores. Folate, which predicts heart attack, stroke, death, is high in people who don't eat meat or other animal products. It's even higher than vegetarians, but it's much higher. The folate level itself is the sign. It's the sign. You can take all the folate pills you want, it doesn't affect those outcomes. You could put more and more signs up, you can still be hit by a train. Now I need to stop for a second, not junk food vegetarian, because cookies and Doritos and junk food like that doesn't help and in fact makes things worse. So we'll talk about that later. But I'll just say this 4 more times. Well, maybe not 4 more times. We know people with higher folate have less heart attack, stroke, death, and dementia. But the pills of folate make no difference. The folate tells us that they're more likely to be vegans or vegetarians than omnivores. And omnivores have more methionine in their protein, and that we think is the underlying key. The sign is folate, but putting up more signs doesn't make any difference. The train can still kill you. Vitamin A means people eat more carrots and vegetables. Vitamin A did not make any difference in cancer. Eating a healthy diet is life and death. Want to protect your brain, protect your heart, and save your life? Eat a healthy diet. Thanks. This is just the beginning, but I thought I'd try and go through just the first rough draft, and we'll see you soon. So bye-bye. Thanks for watching.